Hello, everyone, and welcome to the launch of the Africa Blockchain Report. My name is Roslyn Wanjiro. I'm speaking from Kenya and have the privilege to host you in today's session as we delve into the launch of the report. As we give the participants just a minute or two to join, I'd just like us to feel welcome today, and I look forward to us having an incredible time. So, I'll begin right to it. Thank you so much for being part of the session today. I begin with an introduction. I'm an economist who's been in the blockchain space for the last 4 years. I've taken different roles, and currently I'm the lead on-chain Bitcoin analyst at Utafiti. And Utafiti is a digital asset investment advisory firm, which is simply positioned to help people understand what cryptocurrencies are and how to appreciate their investment journey in the space, because there's been a lot of scams and unfortunate incidents which would simply have been avoided if people simply understood what they were getting into. Now, in light of that, insight and that introduction, I mentioned one thing then before I introduce the executive director. So in the last, especially 5 years, we've seen trends in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space whereby institutions have come on board, more people are aware, there's more acceptance of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And the question on many people's minds is, what is the future of this technology? We've gone from the phase of fear, uncertainty, and doubt being absolutes to now taking more of a backseat, with more people being open to this digital or decentralized economy. So in today's report, we will look at some of the perspectives which have appreciated some of these questions. And hopefully by the end of this report, you will be able to understand the stance of blockchain and cryptocurrency adoption in Africa. You'll be able to invest reasonably, knowing the stance as adoption so far is in the state. But so far, so good. I think we are at the most positive time in history. This not just in light of the recent all-time high that Bitcoin hit. If anyone really could have predicted it would hit this high this fast, well, credits to them. But not going into that, and without further ado, allow me to introduce and to welcome to the floor Kayode Babarinde, who is the Executive Director of the Africa Blockchain Institute. Thank you so much for your time and for your audience.
All right, thank you very much, Roslyn, and welcome everyone again to the launching of the Africa Blockchain Report. It's been a long time for the past 6 months, working closely with Algorand Foundation and also many stakeholders across the continent to try to understand what this blockchain has been in terms of strength and weakness, and also what are the possibilities and also the opportunities of blockchain across the continent. Amongst which we have like 4 countries we research on initially, which is starting with Nigeria, Tunisia, South Africa, and also Kenya. I mean, we're so much privileged to work with stakeholders, which also join us today from Conversity Hub as well, Mr. Deji, and as well as all other people as well that join us today on the launching of this report. Today, typically what we want to do is to launch this report out to the public, and hopefully we can get your feedback and also see how this report will be beneficial to what this should do in terms of the blockchain industry. I mean, it could be 2 ways. You could be new to the blockchain, or you may be already be in the blockchain space, but whatever it is, we're so much assured that this report will so much contribute so much to what is you are doing. Joining us today and welcoming you for today's program, we have Ms. Adi from Head of Ecosystem at Algorand Foundation, as well as we have Mr. Dijewuni, who is the CEO, the co-founder of Conversity Hub in Abuja, Nigeria. And so we have Ms. Olayinka Odeniro, the co-founder and CEO of the Blockchain Council. And also we have with us here Mr. Oluwaseun David Adepoju, which is our Head of Research at Africa Blockchain Institute. To also add to this is typically what we do at Africa Blockchain Institute is to make sure we work around building blockchain capacities across the continent, and a part of which we work around 3 priorities, which is the blockchain education, programs, courses, and also we have the blockchain deployment part, typically working closely with some government on the continent. And also the last one is the blockchain research, which is what we are doing here today. So guys, I want to welcome you again for today's launching of the Africa Blockchain Report, and I want to wish us all a fruitful deliberation. Thank you very much, everyone. Rosalind, please.
Thank you so much. I have the honor and the pleasure now of inviting Adi, who's the head of ecosystems at the Algorand Foundation, to present the keynote presentation.
Thank you so much. Give me one moment and I will access the right tab for you. Can everyone see that? Okay. Awesome. Since I can't see your faces while I'm speaking, please feel free to type any questions into the chat, and I'm happy to answer those towards the end of this presentation / keynote. So hi, thank you so much again. My name is Adi Wagenknecht, and I'm the head of ecosystems and technical operations for the Algorand Foundation. I just want to start off by saying thank you to the African Blockchain Institute for inviting me to this launch of the report. It has been such an honor to have spent the last year collaborating and experiencing the ABI, which I believe is at the foremost blockchain think tank in Africa. I have had the opportunity to experience firsthand the extensive evidence-based research and deployment solutions across multiple countries in Africa, and the research standards facilitated by our leading experts here within the conference and beyond have exceeded our expectations at the Algorand Foundation. And I want to thank you again one more time for letting me be part of that journey and to continue working with you. That's been a complete honor, and I'm thrilled to be here today. So I want to go quickly over just some high-level topics, and then I'm happy to also answer any questions if there's additional time. But essentially, when we're looking at the Web3, for those of you who aren't super familiar with the definition, the Web3 is essentially a third generation of internet services for the blockchain websites and applications that focus on using machine learning-based understanding of things like data or data-driven semantic web. In addition to recognizing, I think, one of the key aspects and differentiators, which is decentralization. So the ultimate goal of Web3 / Web4, now that I think we're moving into that phase unofficially, is to create a more intelligent, connected, and more open internet by powering the next evolution and acceleration of things like the open metaverse, decentralized finance, and accessible information. I'm myself specifically interested in emerging markets and providing infrastructure for public proof of stake blockchain networks and wealth distribution, including educational opportunities across the globe. So a lot of what we have been doing within the Algorand Foundation is looking at markets in South America, Central America, Africa, Middle East, and Asia to ensure that there are opportunities to understand, utilize, and deploy in the blockchain, because we believe that that is where some of the most highest potential growth and most interesting projects are coming out of in terms of both research and venture capital projects. So really quickly, there's a key differentiator in Algorand, and we are the Algorand Foundation. We are basically dedicated, in my opinion, to fulfilling the global promise of blockchain technologies by leveraging the Algorand protocol and open source software, which was initially designed by Silvio Micali and a team of leading scientists who I have the honor to work with on a daily basis. So if any of you have spoken to our research team, a lot of the papers and work that they have done is actually the fundamentals of the Web2 / Web3 ecosystems. A lot of the encryption protocols and implementations are things that they have designed from the ground up. So with the core belief, I think, in the establishment of sort of an open, public, permissionless blockchain, the Algorand Foundation has a vision for inclusive ecosystems that provide an opportunity for everyone to essentially harness the potential of an equitable and truly borderless economy. Algorand itself as a protocol and a blockchain, I think, has a really key differentiator, is that we have a two-tier blockchain structure. The base layer supports smart contracts and asset creation, atomic swaps between assets. That is a bifurcation of the network between layer 1 and layer 2. So this essentially allows Algorand to process transactions super efficiently and super fast. For example, comparable to a lot of the proof of work chains, which I think if any of you have kind of spent much time with them, or specifically in NFTs and those sort of plays, DeFi, the gas fees are extremely limiting and expensive in terms of who has the opportunity to engage with those spaces. So you'll typically pay anywhere from 30 USD to a few hundred USD in gas. And with Algorand, for one algo, which is the equivalent of about 2 USD, you can do around 1,500 to 2,000 transactions on that. So it really opens up, I think, the opportunity to play and develop and test and research without this kind of limiting factor of the financial reality that is proof of work. We also use a pure proof of stake protocol, so it's built on the Byzantine consensus, and each user's influence is essentially a choice of new blocks, so it's proportional to its stake / number of tokens in the systems. And this allows users to essentially be randomly selected and secretly selected to propose new blocks and vote on the block proposal. So this allows us to not only be scalable, but also be more secure. This is a really quick overview / kind of preview of where we are. So Algorand Foundation is super decentralized. For example, my team is across Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, Dublin, I'm forgetting some already, LA, New York. We're also looking for opportunities for ambassadors and developers to expand this into other parts of the world where we're missing parts of our team, obviously. Also like to touch on the energy consumption. So you can look here and see how our energy consumption, sorry if instead of our energy consumption per transaction. So if you use a use case like crypto art / NFT markets, for example, something like OpenSea or even Nifty, any of these sort of things, those are worth around 500 million right now in that vertical. And this excludes some of the largest marketplaces. If you take out, for example, something like Nifty, and this figure I think is quite heavily skewed, of course, with the top artists earning the most. But selling work on a blockchain can be technically challenging risks. So for this reason, many platforms and websites are emerging, aiming to make this process as seamless and as easy as possible for artists. But because many of these things are based on the proof of work blockchains like Ethereum, for example, there's this inefficient and ecological cost by design. So what I mean by that is by selling a single edition artwork on a proof of work blockchain, a carbon footprint starts at around 100 kilojoules of carbon monoxide, which is approximately about 1 hour flight, depending on the platform, or you can reach in a long haul flight. So selling an edition of 100 works has a carbon footprint of around 10,000 tons of CO2, which is more per capita than the annual footprint of the majority of families in the EU, including all emissions by industry and trade. So from like a carbon consumption point of view, I really advocate people to consider looking at proof of stake and pre-proof of stake blockchains purely for the scalability and the sustainability and sort of longer term systems. Things like ETH2 are interesting, but because that fork will have to port and dock the proof of work chains, there's a lot of limiting use cases and complexity that is still left to be figured out. Right now, you can kind of get a view of the Algorand ecosystem. We are one of the fastest growing ecosystems in layer 1 in one of the top 15 in CoinMarketCap last time I checked. So you can get a really good sense of what our ecosystem and kind of value propositions are. We have some beefy stable coins. Right now, we have a lot of DeFi plays coming out, NFT plays, which I was just speaking to. We're available on the majority of mainstream kind of quote unquote mainstream markets and exchanges. I also want to touch really quickly on the platform of sort of where we're looking at from a value proposition of onboarding projects, because we have a grant program and a few funds which have non-diluted funding, essentially meaning that we don't take equity to support the projects. I'm really keen on getting more projects specifically out of certain areas of Africa, because I've seen a lot of really brilliant underrepresented use cases coming out of there. And I want to make sure that people are aware on the call that there is the opportunity to receive funding for things. This is sort of an overview of specifically sustainable projects, because that's something that we've been really focusing on in the last year specifically, is this notion of like the hashtag green crypto. So the sustainability projects you can see across here, Algorand, I think, together with our community, is built on trust and public permissionless infrastructure. So, for example, just last year, we launched a 250 million algo grants program. This is around, I guess, 500 million USD grant program right now, but it's a multi-year program that offers various funding level opportunities across application development, tools, infrastructure, research, such as the Africa Blockchain Institute, and so on, education, community, obviously. These basically, with our key goal, is to empower innovation and development and supporting the growth of a vibrant, diverse, and thriving ecosystem across the board. So, for example, here, Gaia Chain is an example of how they're using the digital ledger technology to support biodiversity conservation and ecosystem restoration. Another one I see on here is Climate Trade, which is a grant that allowed us to achieve a carbon negative network using sustainability oracles, which essentially allows Algorand to notarize, in quotes, using the blockchain carbon footprint on chain for each epoch, which is a set of a blocks. So it allows, with these advanced ASAs we have on Algorand, to essentially lock the equivalent amount on carbon credit as an ASA into a treasury, so the protocol can keep running as a carbon negative space. The reason why we've been so focused on this, again, is because we want to leverage and make the sustainable, scalable, and buildable as a future possible, and not just what's working now. So the work and the accumulation specifically of, like, for example, the Africa Blockchain Project has been, I think, came in through an internal referral, but it was also a grantee from the foundation. And I'd like to give credit and visibility to the research team at ABI that has essentially led this report, as it clearly defines the misconceptions of blockchain across Africa as a continent. Through the report, it is finally possible to have a clear understanding of what individuals, companies, institutions, governments are doing in Africa for people who are both in and outside of Africa, and are doing work with blockchain technology, and where the work remains to gain mainstream momentum, and what we can do to engage with that. The purpose sampling, for example, with this was used, from my understanding, as an extensive both quantitative and qualitative approaches, with the select countries that were selected based off of the top roles and sort of top players within the blockchain space in Africa. So off the top of my head, I'm sorry if I forgot one, I think it's Nigeria, South Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, Tanzania, North Africa, Kenya, and yeah. The countries were basically selected again because they were the top players in the blockchain space in Africa and the world. And I want to leave the remainder of the overview to the rest of the team, as I feel that they are obviously the experts here, and support their further research and institutional work that they've been doing. And I want to ensure that I also have time to answer any questions you have. So just to touch on a few kind of really quickly, like, funding opportunities we have, we just recently launched the DeFi fund, which supports the development of DeFi applications such as, sorry? Oh, okay, go on. So the DeFi fund is basically there to support the development of DeFi applications. So we've got the non-fungible tokens, AKA NFT platforms, money markets, exchanges, oracles, bridges. We just recently launched, essentially out of that, a derivative of a $5 million SUPA grant, which was announced a few weeks ago. Our first stage of that was building out bridges and oracles. Bridges essentially allow interoperability from one chain to another, and I'm very strong on these, because what a bridge does, if you're not familiar, is it allows Algorand to, say, communicate with Ethereum, Ethereum to communicate with Algorand, and it opens up those ecosystems to each other, which then opens up market volumes and value across the chain. So I really see the future of blockchains, regardless of who is on top, that they are interoperable and cross-chain compatible. The other thing we've been looking at is supporting oracles. Oracles are essentially looking at data or data that can be provided in search. So when you think of an oracle, it's in the most literal sense, like looking up weather or looking up data that is available anywhere across the internet or IoT devices. Next up, we're going to be looking at things like supporting DAOs, supporting other DeFi plays, but with the grants specifically, which is sort of a parallel track, we do things like research, education, apps, and use cases. And because it's non-diluted, there's very little risk in terms of us taking on equity or carrying power onto the project. We're really there to essentially act as an incubator, offer technical support, offer marketing, offer security audits and things like that that are normally quite expensive. We try to absorb those costs for you as much as possible so that we can essentially allow you to thrive within the ecosystem. So if you have an idea for an app or a use case or anything like that, I always encourage people to reach out. This is my contact information for any social network, essentially GitHub, Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, any of that. If you have any questions or you have a proposal or you have something you're interested in receiving funding for, I would very much encourage you to reach out. I'm always happy to provide feedback and insight to prior grantees and awards that we've been offering, as well as sort of offer some insight to the future roadmap of the DeFi fund and any other any other future initiatives that we will be building out. I see Dora's on here as well. I would encourage anyone in education to look at our ACE program. It's spelled ACE. I see someone provided a link. The Algorand Centers of Excellence, I believe, is also accepting applications. So I would encourage you to look at that as well. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and also for your wonderful time. So I'd like to encourage the audience, just as we go along, to share the questions outstanding in the chat section. But before we proceed, I think we have two very quick questions. One is that, will the presentation be shared later? I think so. Yes, it will. Second question has already been answered, and we are good to go for the next presentation. So allow me to welcome David to the fore, who's the head of the research at Africa Blockchain Institute. Thank you so much, David. I can see your screen is right there, so over to you.
Thank you, Rosaline, and thank you everyone for gathering here this afternoon. We appreciate all the support we've received from the general technology ecosystem in the 4 countries we've studied, and I can see some of the stakeholders we engaged during the interview process for this research on the call. Thank you for honoring our invitation, and thank you for the support from the Algorand Foundation as well. We've done this research, and this is the first edition of the research. We're trying to break them down into clusters, and we've been able to study Nigeria, Kenya, Tunisia, and South Africa in this first edition. And the general objective for this research is to actually clarify the misconceptions on the blockchain technology on the African continent. And as you will agree with me all, that the blockchain technology was riddled with a lot of misconceptions from the inception in Africa. And also a lot of regulatory misunderstanding from the government and stakeholders that are in charge of policy making. So we wanted to see what is happening in terms of those misconceptions in Africa, and also to look at other use cases outside the most popular cryptocurrency use case of the blockchain technology in Africa. And we were able to break down that broad objective into these 3 main objectives for this research. Number 1 was to gain in-depth knowledge of the blockchain technology in Africa, and also to bridge the gap between the academic blockchain technology research and industrial blockchain use and application. When we did our pre-study research, we noticed that a number of people in the academia actually publish a lot of papers on blockchain, but those papers have not been able to speak to what we can do to make policies, what we can do to inform regulatory bodies, what we can do to actually make ecosystem investment in the blockchain technology. So we did this research to also be able to make a difference between the academic blockchain technology research and what is actually happening on the ground. and also to produce an African blockchain report that is data rich. We noticed that a lot of people from other parts of the world that want to invest and have visibility into what is happening in the blockchain space in Africa usually lack the data to make such decisions. And we want to be able to produce a report that will be a one-stop shop and go-to platform for investors, for people that are doing research, and for other blockchain enthusiasts that might want to have access into what is happening on the continent. And my presentation is going to be very short. We'll be able to download the report at the end of this event, but I just want to create visibility into some of the summary of the data in the research. So we spoke to a number of startup companies across the 4 countries, and this data on the screen is presenting the summary of what we did in the 4 countries in terms of stage of companies. So most of these startup companies, we noticed that 49.2% of them are still at the growth stage of their blockchain solution development. And this created an insight for us to see that there's still a vast opportunity for blockchain acceleration on the continent, because many of the blockchain solutions and other use cases are still at that developmental stage, and they are still at the baby stage, ideation, and just trying to gain more skills and technical know-how to build the solutions from the ground up. So there's a fresh opportunity here, and we also noticed that 10.8% are actually established blockchain companies across different use cases, and then 35.4% are the ideation stage, and 35.4% are the scaling stage. We also asked the question around the duration of time they've been building these blockchain solutions. And we noticed that 53.8% across the 4 countries are actually in their first 5 years of development. This also speaks to the infancy stage of development of the blockchain technology on the continent across all the use cases. Out of all the use cases, cryptocurrency exchange seems to be leading, but we also did this research to shed light on the other use cases that we usually don't talk about, and we believe that these other use cases are actually what will make the blockchain technology, grow faster on the continent, because the cryptocurrency narrative is already there, but the use cases across other problem and challenge area in the society where we can apply the blockchain, we believe we penetrate more and make the blockchain technology gain more importance on the continent. So this is to reiterate again that most of the blockchain solution that we research, they are still at the developmental stage, and they are in the first to 5 years of development. Now for the innovators, the blockchain innovators we spoke to across the 4 countries, 50.8% of them are still under 30 years old. So that also speaks to the fact that the young people are the one pioneering, the blockchain innovation on the continent, and under only a few of them under 20, 4.6%. And we saw some of these young teenagers in South Africa, many of them working on music royalty platforms on the blockchain, like 3 of them who are working on that in South Africa. But in summary, across the 4 countries, most of the innovators are still under 30. The pressing challenges in the African blockchain ecosystem, we noticed that we discovered a market misconception of blockchain is actually really high, 26.4%, which confirms some of the hypotheses we had at the beginning of the research in our conception stage. We also saw regulatory issues that came at 19.4%, a lack of funding, 24.7%, which spoke to how some of the innovators have their things on paper. Some of them have done prototype, but they have not been able to get enough funding to actually make more mistakes and be able to come out with something tangible in the market. And also lack of access to blockchain incubators. And we see this as, even though it's very, the percentage is low, but we see it as a strong recommendation that I'm going to be showing us. We believe that if we have more blockchain incubators and accelerators on the continent, from those who are that have been in the space for long, we believe that this can actually accelerate blockchain innovation on the continent. And then insufficient access to blockchain skills training, which came at also 19.4. It came out top in the recommendation as well in terms of skills and technical know-how of building blockchain solutions on the continent. Misconception, this was a chart showing the interviews. So this is representing the qualitative analysis that we did on misconception. And we noticed that from the stakeholders and the blockchain innovators we spoke to, 89.2% actually noted that blockchain misconception is a great impediment to the slow embrace of the blockchain technology on the continent. And we have confirmed over and over again now that we need to do something to work on the misconception. And this will connect to how we educate people now on the blockchain technology and the kind of project we are taking on outside just cryptocurrency, but also application to other live issues and some of the most wicked global challenges that we see today. In terms of the support, some of these blockchain innovation companies actually need, funding came out at 30.5%, mentorship, some other ones are incubation, like I mentioned, acceleration, market entry support. We spoke to a number of innovators in Kenya who don't actually know how to the right market for what they've built, even though they did a lot of research before they built their solution. So we can see a lot of young people confused about how to, take out what they've been working on. And this speaks to what we need to do in terms of support, mentorship, acceleration, and incubation for a lot of young innovators for the blockchain technology on the continent. The others, actually in the report, I'm just giving a summary. And then the solutions the innovators, blockchain innovators are building, these are some of them. Secure sharing of medical data, we saw some of that in South Africa. Music royalty tracking, we saw some of that in South Africa. Cross-border payment, a lot of that in Nigeria. Real-time IoT operating system, a number of that in Kenya. Personal identity security, a number of that in Tunisia. Then anti-money laundering tracking system, a few of that in Nigeria. Then supply chain and logistics monitoring, we saw a number of that in South Africa. E-voting mechanisms in Kenya, advertising insight in South Africa. Then cryptocurrency exchange, we saw a number of them in Nigeria and Kenya. So these are some of the solutions they are building, and we've been able to curate the names of these companies on the main report for your visibility. And these are the recommendations. Number one is owing to the majority of the respondents' agreement to misconceptions being the major impediment to the slow embrace of the blockchain technology in Africa. We are recommending that technology stakeholders and blockchain education researchers and companies and corporate blockchain companies should invest in granular blockchain education and advocacy, both at the grassroots and national levels across Africa. One of the issues we faced in the research was actually conceptualizing blockchain to be able to explain it to a layman. It's something that is still very, very hard to do, right? Even in the simplest terms that we have been explaining blockchain to people, many still don't grab it yet. So we need to do a lot of work in terms of education and looking at bodies of knowledge that we can use to break down the blockchain education to people. Then the private technology sector should be more deliberate in engaging the government of African countries in co-designing technology policies that support the fourth industrial revolution technologies. Across the 4 countries, it was so glaring that the technology, private technology sector and those in charge of technology with the government, they don't understand each other. And we know this will continue for a while, but we'll still keep doing what we have to do to ensure that in no distant time, we're able to cover the space and convince the government of the potentials of the blockchain technology. And we saw a lot of that in the interviews we did in Nigeria and Tunisia, where what we see in terms of media portrayal is not what is actually happening on the ground. Then blockchain companies should invest more resources in applied blockchain technology research. We need data, we need research, we need to know what is going on for us to be able to make good decisions and also when we're engaging the government, we need to speak data, not sentiment and emotion. And then technology venture capitalists should not only intensify their investment in Africa blockchain solutions, but also kickstart a seed funding structure that can help blockchain innovators prototype and test new ideas. We noticed that a lot of, to fail in Africa as a startup is expensive. And we do not have the seed funding culture that allows people to make mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and build again, right? We need that culture from technology venture capitalists in Africa and from outside Africa as well, to ensure that we allow blockchain innovators, people who want to get their hands dirty, we give them the seed funding to fail and to learn from their failure and to, build something tangible to solve problems on the continent. And then technology accelerators from within and outside the African continent should design more blockchain specific incubation programs. We need to see more of this, on the continent, where the incubation and the acceleration program will be tailored towards blockchain technology specifically. And then blockchain education companies in Africa should tap into other clients for capacity development. There's a lot of capacity insufficiency in terms of skills and education for the blockchain technology on the continent. We need more. ABI and other platforms have been doing that, but we need more skills-focused, oriented education for the developers and those who want to go into the technicalities of the blockchain technology. And finally, there should be ecosystem advocacy for other use cases of the blockchain technology beyond cryptocurrencies by the blockchain ecosystem players in Africa. And I'm glad that we saw a lot of use cases from Nigeria. I got some insight from the interview we had with Mr. Owonibi from Convexity and some of the innovations they are building in that space in Nigeria. And we want to see more of that across the continent. And we hope to see more use cases in the subsequent countries we are going to be studying. And thank you so much for listening. This is the summary. And I implore the reports to gain insights. All the interviews we did have been captured. All the new data we had has been captured and granularly presented and visually presented for a better understanding. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much for your time and for sharing those insights. I do believe that indeed making this palatable for the layman is the key to unlocking the next level of adoption. At this juncture, allow me to welcome Mr. Adedeji Owonibi, CEO of Convexity, the blockchain hub, to make a stakeholder comment at this point in time. Thank you so much. Please unmute.
Yes, thank you very much, Evelyn. I appreciate that. Rosalie, sorry. My name is Adedeji Owonibi, and I'm the founder and chief executive at Convexity, first blockchain hub, and also a consultancy arm of what we do. I received the report this morning, and you can believe that the copies I received. Today we had some visit from bank CEOs that came in the morning. I shared some to them, and I have some people from our legislatures that came, they are lawmakers, and I gave them 5 copies for several committees, the committee for ICT, the committee for banking and all that. So the report is already going into trenches and all the places. And I say kudos to IB and Algorand because we need more of such really. So I was even wondering if I will have more to actually give to the central bank to see what is happening, because they kept asking, do we have data on activities that are happening? And exactly what Mr. Oluwaseun have said, exactly what Adi have alluded to what Algorand is doing, and of course, being aided also by Abi. So from the stakeholders part, I would say this is a welcome development. We are doing things around what the research is trying to actually bring out in within Africa, albeit we're doing it locally in Nigeria. We just saw that shortage of skills, which the report has been able to actually stamp now with data to show that there's a skill shortage, and to also say most of the ecosystems and the funding are a problem. And we can tell you that for further, this report is speaking to the right thing that are happening, because we have the incubation part of Convexity, where we incubate startups. And this has been the problem with funding and all that. And the local seed, like the report alluded to, we don't get people to put seeds into this. They want already made businesses that can actually scale and for them to make their return. We just got another, one of our startup funded, but of course, not on the seed level, but on a series level. So most of the people coming will say, we want them to actually be on a serious level. So therefore also negating that growth that should happen with the startups with seed funding. Another point I want to speak to has to do with the disconnect between the blockchain startups and blockchain education with the regulators or government, if I may say. And I think yesterday, anyone following Convexity or following myself on LinkedIn, we see the battle we had with the central company registration body in Nigeria, for instance. We are incubating this hub, this startup, and the startup is building around NFT, and they're doing API for NFT gaming reward. And for us, these are the super things we want to see. We want to see people build around DeFi. We don't want to see exchanges and only finance. We want to see other use cases spring up. And so this particular startup, which is one among them, we've gotten everything set, and now we want to register the startup. And the startup say, hey boss, we don't want to be registered in Nigeria. We want to be registered either in the state of Wyoming, or want to be registered in Dubai, or want to be registered in Rwanda. And I said, no, we want you to be registered here so that we can just, see how much we can support you while we're talking with the government and all that. Because I'm preview to the enlightenment that we have worked with the government to bring out what we call the National Blockchain Strategy. I've worked with the government to also bring out SEC regulatory framework for digital assets. So I'm thinking we're creating that ecosystem, and we insisted get registered in Nigeria. But what came to us as a query from the company house was actually kindly remove blockchain from your actions because blockchain has not been recognized by Nigerian government. And we're shocked that that ignorance level can be coming from the government cycle. And we took it up yesterday. We escalated it to whoever needs to know, from the presidency to the senators, to the House of Reps, to everyone that cares to listen, that know how can we actually get to the level we want to get to with this kind of people still working within government cycle. And we're glad that that was taken immediately by the Vice President's office. And right away, a message was sent to the company house to say, this company get to be registered within 24 hours before close of business. And that is the kind of transformation we're bringing. And we're glad that they have to reach, everybody was on his toe. They have to do board meetings in the company house to get that company registered. Because for us, we don't push, the adoption that we've been struggling for, creating the first blockchain hub within the African sub-region, creating all these businesses, and we have government speaking differently. And I think that is what this research is also trying to pull out, that we have a problem around that. And that just a confirmation of that problem. But we're glad we created a pathway for subsequent companies that will come. If we launch in the company house and there's blockchain, nobody would dare query that because we did not just take it lightly. And now we offer also to give them a pro bono training, the whole staffs in the company house, to understand the efficacy and the importance of this new technology, and which is exactly what Algorand is doing with IB. And so we have more grounds to cover, in my view. We're doing that. We discovered that education is not supposed just to be, few people. We started with the kids. I think when we're interviewed, we're having kids in the hub in age 6 to 13. We're teaching for free during the summer holiday. We say, come and just get used to what blockchain has to do. And most of them left that place with ample information of what blockchain can do. And interviewing 6-year-old, gratifying to understand that they are knowing this. And this is what I think this report will help us also till the important places that need to be done. Beautiful projects around Africa. I think this is the only report that is bringing out the real value of people that are building across different African countries, albeit for now. But of course, with a mega one and more coverages, that will be the go-to research for policymakers, for students, for universities. I actually sent this link you just sent to me right away to Pan-Atlantic University, one of the foremost university in Nigeria, because they also discussed with us, they are looking to research around what blockchain can do. And I've sent this right away immediately. Adi shared it. I sent to them because we have this synergy. They send students from that university to come and intern at Convexity for free, also for them to just get knowledge. We're sharing that thing, and this whole thing report that has happened is just an addition to what is happening on ground. So I believe it's going to be go-to place for research, for data, for information going forward, for regulators, for education, and beautiful work, I must say, that Algorand is actually doing. We're looking for more support in this direction, and I think this is the best thing, and you are actually doing a wonderful thing for the ecosystem to grow and blossom. And to cap it all, I believe these startups, knowing that the company and the Blockchain Foundation behind this, we encourage people within our house to actually build on Algorand. And that is what I think it is. I'm getting to know most of the details about how low it is, how fast it is to actually transact, and how low the energy consumption is. And I think those are the things that are proud to this time not known, and now becoming so glaring that we can encourage a lot of startups in this direction. I will look forward to a lot of partnership to work with you in kind of research like this. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for the bold steps and for the courage that you've taken up to make and actually pave the way for others who are yet to get to the level where you've gotten to. And indeed, it's through such bold steps that the blockchain ecosystem will not only be created, but thrive in so many more African communities and countries. At this point in time, allow me to invite David Adepoji also to make comments on the announcement on future country coverage and editions. So David, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Rosalind. With the support of Algorand as well, we are glad to announce that we'll be covering more countries. So the second edition will be covering Zimbabwe, Egypt, Ghana, and Rwanda. And this will be done between the months of January and June 2022. And we hope we are already gathering our arsenals to ensure that we get to the grassroots and speak to the right set of people in these 4 countries as well. To reiterate, Zimbabwe, Egypt, Ghana, and Rwanda for the second edition. For the third edition that will run between July 2022 and January 2023, we'll be studying Senegal, Ethiopia, Mauritius, and Morocco. Those are the editions on the way, and we're excited to go into these countries to dig deep and to also shed light on the innovation in the blockchain space happening in these places, and also to see the progress of governments and policymakers, and also to see the different approaches they are using to relate to the blockchain technology in these 6 countries. So we hope you will support us and also provide resources and networks when we reach out to you for the second edition and the third edition. Thank you so much.
All right, before we bring the session to a close, allow me also, David, to let you answer a few questions. And you can see them right here. Or if you have any closing remarks, this is also perfect time for that. Sorry, David, I think we seem to have lost you.
I guess, just go on, David.
Oh, yeah. Are there questions for me to answer? I saw a question around if this slide deck will be shared. Yes, we can share the slide deck with all the participants at the end of the program.
Somebody asked how do we collect the report, the data collection?
Okay, yeah. So we use a mixed method approach for the data collection. We use qualitative and quantitative. For our quantitative, we did an online survey that gave us statistical understanding of what is happening on the ground. And it cut across 11 main questions, and I've showed the summary of that. For the qualitative, we did stakeholders interview. We spoke to at least 7 stakeholders in each of the countries we studied, and we have some of them on the call here. I can see Mr. Kaptich, thank you for being here. And of course, Mr. Adedeji was a major support for us in Nigeria. And funny enough, the Nigerian blockchain strategy on the report. Mr. Adedeji contributed to that. So when we're reading the report, we can see the great work he's been doing there. And other people, I think Innovate Lab is not on the call now. So we spoke to all the stakeholders and we had 5 questions for them that aligned with all the research questions we had in the quantitative survey as well. So those are the 2 things we did. And we also did document analysis. We consulted all the blockchain policy reports that we could lay our hands on for all those countries. And we also ensured that we spoke to the stakeholders we spoke to were not only technology stakeholders, but also people who had worked on blockchain projects for governments of their different countries, and also people who are able to speak to the grassroots use of those of the blockchain technology. And another approach we used was the blockchain innovators we spoke to. We worked with tech hubs. We worked with all the tech hubs in those countries. Even though COVID was on, we still had to contact those tech hubs online, and they gave us access to their community to speak to their tech developers and people incubating with them. That gave us direct access to people actually working on blockchain solutions. So that was the way we went about the data collection.
Last question there. Any insight into the ongoing web and work ecosystem that focus on building trust and knowledge sharing? Specific on actions. Okay, let me respond to this because at ABI, part of what we mentioned aside the 3 priorities, which is education, deployment, and research, we have other programs on the side. First is whether with the campus blockchain hackathon that was done late last year and earlier this year for African students across the continent, and we work closely with the Rwandese government, the Rwanda Information Society Authority, and the Ministry of ICT and Communication as well as African Leadership University on that. And based on popular demand and based on people's interest back and forth on how hackathons really, jumpstart them into the blockchain ecosystem space, we now pushed forward to become the Africa Blockchain Hackathon Program, which we just concluded last month in September 17th. So these are one of the things that Africa Blockchain has been involved in for a time right now. And but unfortunately, we can't start hackathon like early next year again based on several priorities we have on ground. But watch out for November 2022. We're working on the second set of the African Blockchain Hackathon Program. But aside this, also we have Blockchain Summer Bootcamp. We just finished one in Ghana last summer, and also we have the Africa Blockchain Incubation Program. We did one first in Rwanda, and the next year we're going to do for another 2 specific country. And through that, we were able to scale up with several other countries across the continent. So the hackathon program, which is what we do at Africa Blockchain Institute. David, there's a question for you.
Yes, thank you, Faith. Very interesting question. So what we plan to do with the insight from this research is, number 1, some of those blockchain innovation that we were able to see in those countries, we want to be able to connect them to ecosystem that can help them with the kind of needs that they've showed in the research. For those that feel they need incubation, they need mentorship. For those with funding, we want to connect them to unique opportunities to address those needs. So we are not just working with Algorand Foundation to be able to solve those problems in terms of network and funding, but also we have other partners that we will be sharing the data with. And there will be individual reaching out to those startups for support and to provide all the helps that they need for them. Number 2 is to be able to share this report. I believe that information insufficiency in terms of blockchain knowledge and data in Africa is not actually helping policymakers to know what to do. So we, like Mr. Adedeji has done in Nigeria, to help us spread the report to the people in government. We hope to do that across these countries as well. We want to get this report into the hand of those who would decide the fate of the technology. Even though we say technology is rebellious, but at the end of the day, we still need the government to be able to give us a good policy environment to be able to thrive and test new technologies. And number 3 is to now granularize this report into shorter content that we can share for blog posts or postcards or things that people can have access to straight away. We know that most times people don't want to read a 50 pages long report, but we want to do the abridged version that we can share that will speak to specific topics and variables in the research. And we hope that that can also make the insights in the report go viral and reach the hands of the right people that needs the information. So those are the 3 things we have on ground to do with the insights from this report.
Rosaline.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. Thank you so much to our audience also for staying tuned the whole program. Now, at this point, allow me to invite Olainka Odiniran, who's part of the advisory board, an advisory board member at the Africa Blockchain Institute, to give us both a closing remark and a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Rosaline. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Addie, for giving ABI the opportunity to participate in this report. The initiative between ABI and Algorand has exemplified the strength between 2 entities that are dedicated to fulfilling the promise to raise awareness of blockchain technology and creating a borderless economy that factors Africa into the process. We are thankful to Algorand and their involvement and dedication to work in Africa and with Africans. The opportunities that they are creating are helping to facilitate innovation and develop growth by providing opportunities to raising funds. And I'd like to give credit to the research team at ABI that has created this much anticipated report that comprises of 290 projects across 4 African countries. This data provides a transparency about the implementation and usability of blockchain across the continent. Africa by the people and the government by implementing various use cases highlighted through this report. The blockchain technology can definitely be the transformation for us. There are still vast opportunities for blockchain acceleration and other opportunities in Africa, as you've heard. Africa has the youngest human capital and the most creative individuals to spearhead viable blockchain solutions that will benefit the entire world. We look forward to other reports from ABI and also to working more with Algorand in the future. We have only just scratched the surface in this space. There is more to gain from this initiative and more work to be done. It is our youth that will propel us forward, and to them, we will look for continued innovations. As the report shows, there is still need for education, funding, incubation, adequate government regulations, and tackling the misconception. I encourage you all to spread this report, share it, use it to start the necessary conversations around Africa's involvement in the blockchain space. We are actively and consciously engaged and staking our claim on being solution-oriented with this technology. I thank you all.
All right, thank you so much. At this point, we'll bring the program to a close. And as she said, just keep sharing the report. We are the ones to action it, bring it to life, and make the most value that we can out of it. Thank you so much for your time. Have a pleasant day, evening, and yeah, depending on where you are. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming today, and we hope you could share the report across several quarters. And we also remain available for any of your inquiries and feedback as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Adideji. Thank you, Olainka. Thank you, Adi. Thank you, Doro, and thank you, David, and also our host as well, Rosalie Wanjiru. Thank you, everyone. Bye.